Welcome everyone back. My name is Fausto Pugliese from the cybertrading university, and I'm really super excited about today's interview because this is going to be very unique, and my students are going to really love this a lot. I'm just talking to we got Peter Renzulli. Hope I said it right. Renzulli, right?
Renzulli.
Renzulli. And I've known Pete probably it's got to be over like 35 years, and it's just incredible how you always find the same people in the same industry. We're still here. And we started off pretty much the same place back in the old days. And we're going to have a really good conversation here because I think a lot of you guys want to know exactly, how we all got started, why the market it is where it is today, and why we're doing what we're doing today. So, Pete, thank you very much for being here. It's so great to meet up with you again. It's been such a long time, and being in such a small world, talking about those days, it felt like yesterday,
Yeah, that 25 years, 30 years went quick. I will say this, though. I have been following you kind of in the background, and people come and go in our industry. You've been around a long time. That's not easy to do. I'll give you kudos to that.
Yeah, and listen, there's a lot. You know what it is, Pete? You know how it is. And you've been around for a long time. If you got to know how to deal with those big losing days, you know what I mean? You got to know how to recuperate. And if you could survive those big crashes, then you're going to be here forever. And I think that's where people don't know where it comes to discipline and the psychology part about it and all that. But yeah, that's I love what I do. You know what it is? There's so many people losing money in this industry, and you're just trying to really want to help a lot of people too, because it's bad. There's got bad actors. You've been around for a while. You bump into these people, and you're like, and everybody wants to do this. It's a great job, but you got to know how to play the game. So anyway, getting back to the old days of trading, tell me a little bit about you. Just tell me a little bit, everyone, about you. How did you get into this business?
I actually was fortunate enough that I was an entrepreneur before I became a trader. So I kind of came into the business treating trading like a business, which kind of getting back to what you mentioned before about managing the downside. From the very first day, I understood that there's going to be expenses to run a trading business, and I kind of reframe trading losses as a business expense.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people try and avoid losses, and that's not the point. Like when you have a trading edge, that literally means sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it's not. And if you go in accepting that and you kind of reframe the losses as a business expense, it's really just a part of trading to run the business. So you kind of take away all that negative emotion of what a loss means. You respect the loss. Then really it comes down to being around long enough to understand how to manage the winners.
Yeah. And, I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, I was exactly like you, too. I was an entrepreneur. I was selling cars. I worked, in the brokerage industry, everything else. And it all came down to it, and that's how I learned, too, as being a trader. My parents always told me, hey, listen, don't think you can get away with do this for free. You got to pay people. You want to learn from people that are really bad at it. And when I met you, I was doing this. When did we meet? How long ago was that? 20 years ago?
I could actually tell you exactly what the date was. I had a family business out on Long Island. We owned a deli out in Comac.
Oh, okay.
And, my April 17th of 2000 was my first day in that office.
2000. Okay. So you were down there during you were there when we had the the internet bubble. So yes. I've been doing this since 2020, 95. I got into it. So I was doing 5 years prior to that. And what ended up happening, that's when I learned that you like you said, you got to treat like a business. You got to spend money. You know what I mean? And a lot of people here are starting to realize too, even our students. I mean, same thing about you. I mean, you evolved, you teach people, you run a trading room. And I think that's one of the big things I learned a lot too, also how we all got into the education business too. I think it all started pretty much about surrounding ourselves with good traders, right?
Yeah.
I think that's how you kind of learn a little bit more. And that's why what we do is we'll have a trading room and trade with people. But the most important thing, I think, Pete, is you got to teach people how to trade the way we teach. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I've always found that teaching, you're kind of learning it twice.
Yeah.
It's very hard to be trading actively yourself and go out there and break the rules when you just spent 2 hours telling everybody what the rules were and not to break them. So I actually have found teaching amplifies my own trading because every single day, it's almost like a live trading journal where I'm reinforcing what works, reinforcing what to do every day. And then you start to trade and you're like, well, the rules are ingrained in me right now. You're just developing new habits.
And you do. And that's how you really and you learn from those mistakes. And the big thing I would just amaze me, Pete. I mean, as you're talking, I'm just going back. I'm just thinking about those days, and I'm like, my God, that was like the wild, wild west. I mean, like some people here don't realize, but that was the prop trading days. You
Yeah.
know, where we worked in an office right here on Old Country Road, 777 in Garden City, right across the street from the mall, right?
Yep.
And
Exactly.
how many people? And I'll never forget those days. We had so many people packed in that office that we had to get custom air conditioners. You
Yeah. Yeah. It
remember?
looked like the robot from Lost in Space, the big tubes coming out of it. They actually ended up they got a second floor. It got so busy so quick down there.
It was so busy. Everybody wanted to get into trading back then. And it was just like, and we had people screaming, yelling. It was just like, that was a lot of fun back then. How many people do you think we had in that office at one point?
Oh gosh, between the two offices, probably 100 easy.
100
I would
traders.
think. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's funny. What would you say would be like the most memorable experience that you probably, good and bad, that you learned back then? Because there are a lot of traders who had never experienced what it's like to be in that environment, because now we're all working remote. So what would you say?
Well, one thing is competition, and not competition in the sense that I need to beat somebody else, as much as you recognize what's possible. Because a lot of retail traders don't realize what is possible when they're home, because their goals and their vision of what's possible is limited to what they did.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm sitting next to you and you have a $10,000 day, and I think $1,000 day was a good day, there's a new possibility that opens up. So then you start having questions. You buy somebody lunch. Like, you can't do that. You're working from home. You're like, hey, Fausto, let's go out for lunch. I want to pick your brain. And those kind of conversations really build on each other. So it wasn't so much camaraderie as much as shared experience, because everybody has different risk tolerance. Everybody has different size accounts and that kind of stuff. But if you were smart, you learned. I think trying to do it on your own, especially in the beginning, is not the right thing to do. You should try and reach out to as many people as you can.
Yeah, and that's why it's always nice that we try to even host some on-site classes once in a while, once a year, because it's listen, you want to get to meet everyone once in a while, you want to be able, and we do a big dinner, and then it's nice you sitting and talking to everyone, and it just kind of really, some of the students in my trading room even just realize what a great relationship you have a relationship with that person, that you're in that room with that person forever, but until you see him face to face. What would you say is the, how could I say it, the scariest thing you've seen being in that office that we used to trade together that you've learned?
Well, I was always very risk conscious, but I saw some people blow their accounts up in a day, 2 days at most, trying to short a stock that had a good story, just kept going up and up and up and up, and got to the point where, again, something a retail trader might not necessarily know, but it was popular on prop firms back then, where if you blew up your account, you just went down the block and started at zero instead of trying to make the money back, which I would never do. But it happened to me when I owned my prop firm. But that was, seeing how much money you could lose that quickly without having a healthy respect for risk. But I think it drew a lot of people into the business because they thought it was get rich quick, which it probably was for a year, that 99, let's say mid 98 into 99, into like right about the 18-month window. But it really wasn't trading. Like, a lot of people, their strategy was Yahoo would be up $100, it would fall $80, they'd average more down, it'd average down again, and then 4:00 in the afternoon they were up big on the trade. What happened was, in March of 2000, when things started to turn around and that bounce didn't work anymore, there were people in that office that we were literally under the desk crying.
Yeah.
Because they never learned how to trade. All they did was average in, and the market corrected everything.
Yeah, one of the hardest things to teach when it comes to trading is everyone likes, like, there are two big cardinal rules I always teach people in my classes: never hold overnights, and never average down, because unless it's done into design, and most people don't do it in design. And I know that but I always tell everybody, like we were just talking just earlier, you being a day trader, now you evolve, you learn more, you do more swing trading, everything else. But getting back to a little bit more of the past before we get to the present, you told me that, we were together for only a very short period of time, like six months, right? Yeah. So you left, and you left for good reasons. You left to somebody that was probably called the godfather of trading.
Yeah.
And what was his name again?
Harvey Houdkin.
Harvey Halkin, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone here knows who Harvey is, but he was the original So's Bandit. That had the So's Bandit book back then, and he was an idol to all of us in the industry. He actually is the one started. I remember watching on CNBC, always getting ripped apart and everything else. Very sad story. We just saw early what happened to him. Very fatal how he passed away. Going for surgery. I think that's what it was, right? Yeah, it's something they
Yeah, he it's interesting because you could put a life lesson on that as well. And no matter how much money you have, you got to enjoy every minute. He was worth like $100 million, I think, or something at that time. And he went to, I think it was Arizona or something like that. Some kind of, I think he was having throat surgery or something like that. He had the surgery and then he passed away after the surgery in recovery.
Yeah, did they forget that they forgot the tool in him or something like that?
Yeah, something super, super sad. But he was a groundbreaker in our industry.
Yeah, he was always our consigliere, I would say.
Yeah.
On TV all the time. I remember always getting yelled at. But so if anyone gets a chance to read those old books, especially his book, you'll get to learn how we became where we are today, and everything else. So whatever happened to that industry? I know, but in your words, tell everyone, because, everyone's like, well, what happened in 2000? Where did all those prop trading firms go? Why? And why had that industry still die?
Yeah, it evolved because if you remember, things went from fractions to decimals. That was a big change in the industry as well. A lot of people thought there wasn't going to be any more volatility. And ironically, when I went to trade for Harvey at Alltech, was the name of the company at that time, they actually owned an ECN at the time.
Yes, I remember that.
The Attain ECN. So we did a lot of large block scalping for ECN rebates.
Right.
So for anybody who doesn't know that, if you advertise on the bid and advertise on the offer on the ECN, you got a rebate on both sides. So it's going to sound crazy, but people would you do 500,000 shares a day in rebates, you'd make, $3,000 a day in rebates, lose $1,500 in actual trading, but you're still netted for the day. It was a crazy moment in time.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember it's called spread trading,
Yeah.
You do spread trade, and then obviously that died. My whole thing, that reason why that whole business died in general is because they put regulations on it. Everyone got destroyed. I think that whole thing that happened, because what happened, when I left F1 trading, that I went to block trading. Okay, block trading. Guy did a really good job on all these offices all over the place.
They started out in Texas, if I remember right. They were
really popular in Texas. He got a big article written in Inc. magazine that time.
I remember.
And then you had that psychopath that killed everybody down in Georgia.
Yeah.
That's just how crazy it was. I remember, and then they put the regulations where you had the day trading pattern rule. They passed that. So that kind of screwed everybody. And then also, before you were able to open up your own account, trade someone else's, now they kind of regulate that,
Yeah, they also changed the uptick rule back then too, which made it hard to short sell during the 3-year bear market, that put a lot of crimp on being able to have opportunities. You would use bullets to be able to have a synthetic short position, but then they put the uptick rule on, which made it even harder.
Right, they put the uptick rule. So what have you noticed has changed? Listen, you're talking about, we're in 2025. You're talking about 25 years ago. What has changed? Have you seen over the 25 years? What you've done? Obviously you left New York and now you're down in Florida.
Yeah, I would say that probably one of the biggest changes has a lot of really positives, but can also take somebody down an endless path that goes nowhere. So today we have YouTube and coaches like us and whatnot. There's so much more instant access to somebody who has experience that you could learn from. You could binge YouTube for hours and whatnot. I have 100 hours of AI coaching now that people could find it whatever they want in a heartbeat. But there's also a downside to that, because the downside to that, it's kind of the same reason that over the years, I have 100 trading books, and every book I bought I thought the next book is going to have the answer. The next book is going to have the answer. And while it's much easier to learn what to do, you can go down that path and not actually learn how to trade because you're always looking for the next answer. I think at this point, once you understand technical analysis and risk management, and assuming you're building towards an edge, at that point, you have enough to understand how to trade. But I think the mistake that people make is they think that chart reading is trading.
Right.
And when you go down the path of thinking that you need to know more about charting and technical analysis, you're moving yourself away from the real goal, which is actually to learn how to be a trader. And those decisions of actual trade management, position sizing, adding to position, scaling in and out, which, sector rotation, that's the trading aspect of it. Finding chart patterns is not trading. And when somebody really learns the difference between the two, then it takes them down a different path of what the actual skill is to make money. And I think that's great about today, that you can learn that much, but somebody needs to really get to the point with, like, okay, I know everything about charts, but I'm not making money. What am I missing? And I think
Right.
that last part is where we come in, quite honestly.
And over the years, you evolved. You did differently. You became a day trader, and now you're doing more swing trading. You're saying you still do some day trading, but what made
Yeah,
you change?
I would say that I was probably 100% day trading until about 10 years ago. And then I started to find, like, you have a choice in trading. There's time in the trade and timing. And a lot of day trading is about timing. Whatever, whether it's level two, I don't do any level two stuff. But timing, it requires intense concentration, a little bit more position sizing for those smaller moves. So I started to really think about what moves stocks. I started to get a little bit more macro in what I do, a little bit more sector rotation, industry rotation, and started to work smaller positions over a longer period of time. And I just find that as I get a little bit older, it matches my lifestyle a little more to not necessarily be at a machine all day. I mean, I have a full day trading community, but I'm not in there running it all day.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the same thing too. I was 100% day trading, and now I'm probably like maybe 50-50. I still day
Yeah.
trade. I mean, there's a lot of stocks that are moving in the morning. I love day trading and the
Yeah, when it's
action.
in your blood, you can't look at the screen and not hop on top of something, but it's not
Yeah.
the sole strategy now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if it's there, you jump on it, but then sometimes you look at stocks and you'll see things as more of a swing, you
Yeah.
know. But what's very interesting is I want to get your take on this, on something totally different. But been doing it for a long time. What are your thoughts when you saw crypto come into this business? I mean, did you get involved at all, or were you scared?
It's funny. In 2017, 2018, I would have lunch with a friend of mine every day who was an early crypto enthusiast, and it was probably around 3,600 at that point. Like, it went from, I think, 10,000 to around 3,600 and bottomed out around that area. I want to say it was 2018. And I'm like, it's not regulated. I don't understand anything about it. I have all this stuff going on with equities. Leave me alone. Boy, I wish I could go back and talk to myself about that one.
Yeah, I had the same problem. My son, when he went to college, he bought it at $550, and he
Wow.
kept on telling me, "Dad, these guys are buying." He was showing me these books, and I guess you're like me, and I think that's the problem we had. We just been doing it for so long, Pete, that to us it was a penny stock, and it's like
Yeah.
buying a $3,000 penny stock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's where it came down. Like, you out of your damn mind? You, and I guess that's why we kind of missed that big boat.
Yeah.
But I became a little bit more of a fan of it once I started seeing like the ETF started coming out and stuff like that, with IBIT and stuff like that. It started getting regulated. Then it says, okay, now we know this thing is for real. It's not going anywhere. Once they got involved, even Jamie Dimon was saying, if any of my traders trade it, I'm firing the shit out of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Exactly.
he didn't even believe in it. I mean, Jamie Dimon. I mean, the guy, he's a
Yeah.
godfather of the banks and stuff like that.
Fausto, it actually brings up an interesting point that about diversification versus being a specialist in something. I kind of also made a decision that I don't want to spread my focus into something that's not really my specialty. And at the same time, when there were better opportunities in what was my focus, I could size up in them. I can get a little more aggressive. I can have more conviction. And I just kind of felt that if I spread my focus into something that I'm not really good at, or there'll be a learning curve to it, I felt like it wasn't worth my time. And I think that's probably something that maybe we could really express to people. And I don't know if you feel exactly the same way, but we all have limited resources, both time and money. And it's a common thing to feel like you have to trade everything. And I made a decision. I didn't want to do that. So I'm mostly stocks and options, probably 80% stocks. But I think it's something everybody should consider, whether or not they want to be good at something or chase what's popular at that point. I think the more you end up chasing something, you end up getting nowhere.
Pete, I couldn't say it better myself. You're absolutely right. You know what? I try to preach that all the time. I always tell everyone wants to get into this business, right? This business is just not stock trading. It's options, it's Forex, it's futures, it's crypto, it's everything. And I tell everyone it's the greatest job. I mean, the top 100 richest people in the world is not Bezos, or Musk. It's people in finance in the top 100 list. So I tell them you should try a little bit of everything. You should see what you like. Listen to a couple of speakers. That's why I love having people like you on here. Your style might be a little bit different from mine. It just resonates with sometimes. Sometimes you see somebody and like, I don't get it. Like, how did you do that? I mean, like, you can't even speak. I tell some people, and you get it. Like, what I mean? Like, and it's just like, it just clicked, and just some people just clicked. Like, how do you date that person? I mean, I that girl's beautiful. I couldn't even. And meanwhile, like, how did you? It's the same thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, I always tell everyone, try a little bit of everything, but you can't be jack of all trades. But I just get a little concerned that some people they think they have to make something work, and they stick around for a while and do it, and then they end up going out of business. So that's what I'm going to lead to it. So if you telling them the same thing I just mentioned, how long do you think you should tell them they should give something before they say, okay, it's just not working, to move on to do something else?
Well, are we talking about trading in general, or are we talking about testing a strategy?
Trading. Trading a style, like somebody like, I want to do options.
Yeah.
I heard this guy speaking on options. I can make 90% of my money, trading, in one day. You know what I mean?
I think that it's interesting because we have a prop background. I think that making that decision, if you have a full-time job versus making that decision to say, I'm going to go become a full-time trader, is a very different paradigm from which you see the profits. Because if you have a full-time job, you're going to let stocks fluctuate all over the place, and maybe you'll get out of them at some point if you even do. But if you decide to quit your job, that $1,000 means your electric bill or your mortgage or your car payment and those kinds of things. So there's a psychological aspect that comes down to, you have to really focus on the process versus the money, which is incredibly hard to do. But from that perspective, whether it's a full-time job or whether they have their job, there has to be a certain amount of trades you place to determine two things. Number one, do you trust the strategy because you saw it play out over time? And number two, do you trust yourself to follow it? So in my opinion, as opposed to saying it's not for you, there has to be some statistical measurement behind it. If you place 5 trades, that's not enough to say this works or it doesn't. It has to be 20 trades, 50 trades, and were they good ideas? It's one thing to also place 50 trades, but how many of the 50 were actually good ideas, which we both know. I mean, we actually pull up our P&L. We're like, okay, I took 20 trades and I thought all 20 of them were good, but then you review them and you see 7 of them were garbage. And so you didn't follow the plan. So you have to make that decision based on, did you actually vibe with the strategy? Like you said, did you actually follow it? And then what were the results from there? Because that's the beauty of trading. It's either black or white. You're either making money or you're not. And within that context, again, quitting versus not quitting, how much did you start out with? Nobody should be starting out with the boat. Like, everybody should be like, I'm allocating 5,000 or 10,000 to learn the business because I know I'm going to have losses. I'm not really going to understand how to make profits yet. We say a lot in our community, you have to respect risk first, so you're around long enough to understand how to make money, because there's a whole process to maximizing profits the same way there is to cutting your losses, and eventually get to the point where the same discipline you had on cutting your losses, you have to transfer that discipline to holding good trades, which is really, really hard. So I'm kind of taking the long way of answering your question. You have to go through, if you don't go through all of those, you really can't make the decision, because you can't say I gave it my best shot if you were like crypto one week and options another week and the wheel strategy one week and day trading another week. Who would run a business like that where they're changing the sign on the business, every 6 weeks? It doesn't work that way. Right. So you have to make a commitment to a strategy, full on trade the strategy, and then make a commitment. And I think, again, you just used a great word. I think it's the world's greatest business. I think it's the most beautiful, elegant way to make money, period. There's no nights, no weekends, no holidays, no inventory, all of that stuff. But
no insurance, no employees, no liability.
Right. Exactly. But the other side of that, though, that means that you're in charge of everything, which means you need rules. So if you start out, you got the bug and all that kind of stuff is really working itself into you, then you got to take a lot of notes. You got to pay attention to what works. You got to kick out what doesn't, do more of what does. I don't know that I would tell somebody, unless I saw somebody not respecting risk and they were actually in danger of losing big money, I would say trade small, learn. what's working, learn what works for you, and keep iterating. I think that one of the biggest mistakes I made the first 2 years that I was trading is I didn't pay attention. I didn't pay attention to what was working. I didn't pay attention to what wasn't working. I didn't do more of what was working. And I basically, I thought I had 2 years experience, but I actually had like a bunch of 2-month experiences.
Right.
And it didn't add on top of each other. So if I could ever give somebody insights into the beginning, you got to get a journal, buy a notepad, just start taking notes on what you're doing. And that'll be the greatest trading book you could ever read, because it's coming from your risk tolerance, your capital, your experience, your skill level. And that's the fastest way to progress from there, because it's not somebody you watched on YouTube. It's not a book that was written 20 years ago. It's your experience. And when you start to, here's the thing, when you journal, which is 50 billion times easier today, you pull up a Google document and you just talk. You don't even have to write, because that's a big argument we get. People, I don't have time in the journal. Just talk. Google document translates the whole thing, right? Don't read it while you're journaling. Just get it out of your system while you're trading. The emotions, the perspective, all of that's in your mind. Then read it on Saturday. Read it after the week's over, because here's what's going to end up happening. You're going to say, I wrote the same thing on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday afternoon without even realizing it. I keep making the same mistake over and over again. So journal unfiltered, don't edit it, and read it when you're not in the markets. And those insights are what will, have incremental steps, but there'll be definite steps. And that's really what you really want. You want to see progress, so you stay in love with the business. So you every single day you feel like it's Christmas Eve and you're getting somewhere, and tomorrow is going to be even better, and it feeds on each other,
Yeah, I love how you just said that. That's a great idea. I mean, like I haven't changed my style since the day I met you, and when I used to teach. I tell everybody, get a notepad, write that shit down. You know what I mean? Like, write down your stock symbols, whatever it is. And now with AI, like you mentioned, with Google Docs, you don't have to go crazy and write down every single thing. You could just talk to it. Yeah. And and he'll re-edit it and fix it. Like I'm not that good at English. I mean, I was great at math. You know what I mean? That's why I love trading. But like, I can't sit there and type. I'm not a good typer and write things down. Just talk to it, and then boom, you analyze it. Because like you said, the way you're going to learn, the way I was taught, is even the way we teach today, is like we do a lot of coaching with everyone. We review their journals with them. If they don't do their journals, like why didn't you do your journals? What are you afraid of? You got to know. I always tell everyone, Pete, losing is a great thing. And people are like, how is that great? Because you're going to lose. And if you know why you lose, you're not going to do it again. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to strike out. You're going to fall off a bike. You're going to just know you got to get back up. And like you said, I love that. It's Christmas Eve every day when you come trading. Christmas is not here. It's always Christmas Eve. You know what I mean? So there's going to be another president coming up. So that's great. When I look at it. And that's why, and it's great because our styles really haven't really changed. Now regarding about now you got into the trading business. Okay. When did you, I get this, people ask me all this time, if you're such a great trader, Pete, why do you teach people?
Yeah, I actually had a period of time where I was doing, my office was on 34th Street and 7th Avenue in New York, and obviously very competitive market. So I actually had I was doing a different city every 3 weeks because I was getting out of New York, and I was like, okay, let everybody over here battle it out for the same group of 100 traders. So I started traveling a lot, and every single event that I did, somebody would ask me that question. Yeah, every single event. And we kind of talked about it a little bit before we came on the air. Number one is, when you are teaching, you're constantly drilling the fundamentals of trading, good trading, into yourself. So it's almost like auto suggestion,
you're recruiting,
like, right? Then the other part of it is, I would have somebody come up to me and they'd say, "Why are you doing this?" And I'd be like, "Well, do you have a job?" And they'd say, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, you already have an income. Why are you doing this?" And because I know why they're asking me. They're basically saying you can't make money. And I mean, do you perceive it that way? Because I would always, because they're basically calling you out to, like, why are you doing seminars and selling courses and coaching if you're a good trader?
Well, first of all, it's my time. People are willing to pay. Nobody works for free. Number one,
yeah.
Okay, and number two, if it's free, that's all it's worth.
Yeah.
And number three, the main reason why I'm doing it is because I'm trying to. I got to train someone the right way, and it's work and it's time, and I got staff, and I just want to cover my expenses. But the way I personally really make money, I tell you, Pete, is that if you really have the passion like you're saying to do it, we're going to make money together, because eventually you're going to be part of our team. You're going to learn how to trade. You're going to do it the right way, and that's it. But I'm not going to go out there and teach someone the right way of doing it, and then you're going to come and leave, and you're going to learn, and then you're going to go on your own, doing your own. You're going to blow up your account. The goal is, you know, you got some skin in the game. It's going to pay for itself down the road. But and like I said, you do it right or don't do it at all.
Yeah, you can see how both of us, I mean, we're both Italian. We put a lot of passion into everything that we do. If I'm going to give you everything that I have, and I have all of this experience, I want to get paid for my time. You get paid to go to the doctor, you get paid to go to the dentist. It's the same thing. And then people will say, well, let me see you trade. I'm like, absolutely. I'm trading every day with my community. You got to come into the community.
Come to my trading room. You'll see all the trades right there. Boom, that.
Exactly.
They're like, you know, like, let me see a P&L. Yeah, come in the trading room. And you know what? And I tell everyone too is this, Pete, I say, if you had an opportunity to see Billy Joel in concert, and if you could see him free in Central Park, or pay a ticket in Madison Square Garden, what would you do? People say, well, I'd rather go see him for free. Okay, great. Go hang out with the bums. Go hang out with the million people out there. Try to find a chair. Sit with the people pissing on the side. I'd rather have my own seat right there. You know, people that are serious, that want to really hear him. Not every drunken fool just sitting there partying, whatever it is. That's what the difference is. You know, going out there with people want free stuff and so on, then actually pay for it too. You know, so it's the same thing too. Like when I do these free events, I'll get a couple hundred people attend an event. I ask people, listen, just give me $9 and I'll show it to you a week. And they're like, oh, you know, that eliminates about 80-90% of the people. And those are the people who are serious.
We actually have a lot of conversations about that amongst my team. And you know, we could really get into the weeds on this, but it's about limiting beliefs. Really, it comes down to they don't believe they can do it, so they don't believe that anybody else could do it as well, and that's their problem. You know, as coaches, as mentors, as people with a lot of experience, we can fan somebody's desire, but you can't give it to them. If somebody doesn't have that spark first to say, I want to learn, I want to buckle down, I know I'm going against the smartest minds on Wall Street, I know I'm going against algos and AI and all those kinds of things, and there's going to be a learning curve to get into that game. The person that wants to enter that game for free is not serious. Right. There's no other way to put it. If you're not willing to pay, you're not willing to pay attention. And if you're not willing to pay the cover charge to walk in the door, I can't give 30 years of experience for free. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of eliminates, you know, like I said, 95% of the people. And I always tell people the 5% that do pay, guess what? Those are people who want to trade against. Okay. Yeah. No disrespect to those people who want to pay. And listen, there's a winner and a loser. You know, you play sports, you play football, whatever it is. You and I could be good friends on both teams, you know, but listen, I get traded with. I don't care. I'm going to knock you out. I mean, that's my game. I mean, that's how I'm going to get paid. I mean, I'm not going to let someone just pass because I know you and you're a friend of mine. I don't want to hurt the guy. It's part of doing business. Yep, and that comes in. Now, getting back to now being a mentor and then getting what you're doing right now, what do you find has been, because, you know, I've learned so much. I think just teaching, I've trained tens, hundreds of thousands of people over the years. What have you find has been the biggest challenge that people are having that are not successful? You know, what are the mistakes that they're making? Number one, we just nailed it. They don't want to go out there and take the time and pay someone to teach them, the right person to do it. Okay. But what's the other one?
I think there's a couple of things, but there's probably a couple that are at the top. Number one is not willing to admit where they're starting. I think it's very easy to collect information, but not necessarily easy to admit that you're starting at the gate. Now, I'll give you the best way I can explain this is that if you're trading for 2 years but not making money, you're still inexperienced because something hasn't changed for you to be at the bit in the game that long to not be making consistent money. And it's most likely one of three things. It's either you don't really have an edge, you don't have a healthy respect for risk, and you don't have the mindset for something you dropped before, which is dealing with adversity. Because if you can't deal with adversity, which is trading is a business, which any business is going to have its ups and downs, keep your job. Don't go and become a trader, because the unlimited upside that comes with trading has a responsibility that you have to make rules. You have to deal with the days where it's amazing, days where you blew your stop loss and you knew you shouldn't have blew your stop loss. So it's acknowledged. They don't want to admit where they're actually starting, and they think they're further down the road. We're all on the same trader path. It's just some of us are down the road a little bit further. So not acknowledging where they're starting, not acknowledging their existing skill set. But in my coaching, and I'm sure you do the same exact thing, we are adamant. The way I do my coaching calls is they're required to post sessions before the call starts so that I can see who's taking the time and giving the detail for the call. And then I know where the questions are going. When I don't get questions from people that I see in the community who are struggling, I call them out on it. I'm like, you are afraid to ask a question. The people that are afraid to ask for help are the ones that struggle the most because I'm going to figure it out on my own. I'm going to eventually, whatever, average down into whatever it happens to be. But the people that struggle don't admit where they're starting and don't ask for help. Period. Those are easily the two biggest things. And then if you do start asking for help, again, I have somebody in my community now who's got no problem asking questions, but he doesn't listen. Like he doesn't follow the rules and he keeps making the same mistake over and over again, which is different from prop trading. You keep breaking the rule in prop trading, you get your buying power taken away every day at 10 o'clock in the morning. And that 2-hour commute that you had, that's enough. That's enough motivation to not put yourself in that position. But we can get to one other thing, which is people would ask, well, how'd you get that discipline? And the discipline comes from when you finally admit, which is a stage that a lot of people never get to. There's two ways to get profitable. The first way is to understand how to stop losing. Once you understand better ideas and you avoid those ideas, you're now not digging yourself out of a hole because let's face it, when it's obvious, it's easy to make money. It's not throwing money away when it's hard that people need to learn how not to do. I know it's a bunch of double negatives in there, but once you get to the point where you understand what to look at and you learn to avoid the ideas that don't match your strategy, then the only thing left over is, are you paying attention to position sizing, holding trades longer, kicking out losses where you're supposed to? And again, I'll keep saying the same thing because it's how it is for me. It's the most beautiful business in the world. I love doing this. I wake up at 4:30 every day. I can't wait to get to the office. I can't wait to write the newsletter. I can't wait to have a pre-market game plan meeting because I want to share the passion for it. And then eventually with the right people it rubs off of, and the people that just want to get rich quick thing, that's fine. They could leave. They can go do whatever they want to do because they're not for us. I want to be around people that dream big and work hard and form a community. That's what, like, again, we know each other for a long time. It's a community of people that did what it takes to last.
Yeah, and people realize it's a really big community. It's just there, and I think there's a lot of people want to do it, especially what happened with COVID and everything. And I think, like you said, like back then, people made money so easily, and I'm getting those people now. Like, I don't say I'm not making money like I was before. You know what I mean? Like you just mentioned, but they're finding out that it is a great business and it does pay really, really well. Yeah. And that's the beauty about it. But I'm just, it's just so great, Pete, to see that where you are today, what you're doing. And what exactly are you doing today training people? Because, I think because I believe I do the same exact thing that you do, but how do you actually go about training your students, and where are they? What are they doing? Where are they from? Everything.
We actually, during COVID, we ended up getting a really big following. It was very, I was doing 2 videos a day. So we ended up having about 36, almost 37,000 subscribers now. That was a big source of people coming into our community. But I think in our universe, people need to trust you a little bit before they make that next commitment. And, watching YouTube videos and that kind of stuff and this kind of stuff, which I'm sure you see in your community. People get to know you. They're like, oh, this guy's for real. He's not promising. He's not standing in front of a Lamborghini and, all those kinds of things.
By the way, if anyone sees that, stay far away from it.
Yeah.
Okay. I tell everybody, you see people flashing money around. First, it's illegal. You can't do that. The FTC is going after people. People driving fancy cars. They just don't want to see that stuff like that because you're kind of supposed, just so not to cut you off, but everyone that's listening in, just everyone listening, because I want everybody to know that, because, it's, I don't brag about my Range Rover where I live. You know what I mean? It's not going to make you money. You know what I mean? So, it's all driving pictures in a Learjet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we actually start out. A lot of people come into our universe through social media, mostly YouTube, and then again, people want to make a small investment before they make the bigger commitment into coaching and those kinds of things. So we have a program on our website that is exclusively for swing traders. It's one strategy, one setup. You buy on Monday, you sell on Friday. Not a lot of active trading. It's time-based so that you're not watching your phone every 5 minutes, and all scripted trade management and whatnot. And once people get in and they see that, and they see how it's scripted from start to finish, they see that there's wins, there's losses. We learn how to hold, those kinds of things. Then they reach out to our team and they talk about making a commitment. And inside of our coaching community, which is obviously the next commitment, we have courses, we have AI coaching, which is available 24/7, which is taken from, like I said, over 100 hours worth of coaching. Because especially today, everybody wants, give me the answer now, right? And if it's Thursday night at 11 o'clock, I'm not available, you're not available, but they can get in there. But I think the biggest thing comes from, we're very structured in continuing education, so to speak. So every day we have a game plan meeting at 8:30 in the morning. So 8:30 to 9 o'clock, I review, the members of the community are required to post the ideas that they're looking at that day. I review all their ideas. I look at the market. I give context for what we're expecting, what kind of day, what kind of volatility, what kind of position size. Then we have the whole community Discord, again, which is open the entire day. And then twice a week, we have coaching sessions. We have a coaching session, which is mostly what between last week and this week, what did you put in your trading journal that you found was a roadblock or a challenge that you want to overcome? And we talk about that. And then on Thursdays, we have trade review sessions. So it's a really nice flywheel of watch the videos, go trade, come to the sessions, go to the trade review. So it kind of works in a really nice circular pattern where each part of that is meant to feed on the previous one. And we have people in our community now for 6 years. So I'm very grateful for that. Yeah,
that's great. And by the way, if anybody wants to find out more about that, we got this link right there. We're going to have Pete come back and we're going to do a workshop on that here at Cybertrading University. And also you can visit his website. Just take your phone, scan that QR code, and we'll be able to get you that link, or we have it in the chat. We'll throw in the chat right there. You can go directly to that link right there. We'll post that up so you guys can come and see it. Now we're going to have this video. We're going to break it down to a couple of shorts, a couple of highlights, and we'll have that up by the end of the day, as always. And we'll have the long version up on our page, and you'll be able to find out Pete's company also. So, Pete, any last minute words? Probably any advice you could leave the traders before we call it a day?
Yeah, I would actually say one of the biggest things, kind of going back to something we started at the beginning of the call, just really pay attention to what's working for you. There's this thing in trading where you can always feel close, and I'm sure everybody's felt that way at some point. You're like, oh, I'm almost there, almost there, almost there. You can have that feeling for the next 10 years if you're not actually writing down, journaling, saying, this is what I'm doing, this is the result I'm getting, and what can I do differently to start heading in the direction I want. That feeling of always being close it's almost like it's a disease, because it's exciting, but you're not actually seeing progress. So if you could do yourself any favors at all, start journaling. It's the fastest way to get closer to where you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you've been around this long, I mean, I always tell everyone else also that, Pete, I mean, listen, you've been around for 25 years, 35 years, you got to be here before COVID until you go through your first catastrophe.
Exactly.
Then the person can make it, because everybody can make money on an up market. Let's see how they survive when the market's crashing. So that's where it is. But yeah, I mean, listen, it was just great seeing you up again, Pete. And it's just what a small world. It's just great to see you again. And I can't wait to have you back again. You know what I mean?
My pleasure, Fausto. My pleasure.
Thanks for being here. Thanks everybody for listening. And we'll see you back here next week on another podcast. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Thank you.